Welcome everybody to Drive to Win. I'm Justin Bell, your host, and I'm here inside the Wynn's Las Vegas podcast studio. And of course, the show is presented by Mobil1 for the love of driving. Well, my guest this week is Mika Häkkinen. He is just another amazing driver in a long list of drivers that kicked my butt in our junior Formula racing careers. And I first met him in 1989, and Alan McNeish and Mika were on the grid with me in Vauxhall Lotus. They were sponsored by a tobacco company. Can you believe it? So was I at 19. And they went on to Formula One and I didn't. Anyway, there was a reason for that. He was simply brilliant. Can't wait to have him on the show. But everything about the Wynn Las Vegas right now is getting racy. All corners of the casino are starting to emerge these beautiful hypercars and racing cars. There's a Solus GT from McLaren right in the lobby, and right behind the roulette tables, there's a Formula One car. So definitely the theme is motorsport, because this weekend is the Las Vegas Concours, this Saturday on November 2nd. I'm hosting it. I'm a big part of it. We're producing it. It's just so exciting to be involved. And if you are in Las Vegas, definitely get a ticket and come along. But of course, the big show, Ultimate Race Week, is coming up in just 3 weeks. And that is what we're all gearing up for. Can't wait to hear what Mika thinks about coming back to Las Vegas. Certainly, it will be a pivotal race in the World Championship, especially that late at night under the lights. The temperatures go down here in the high desert, and it means the cars slide a lot, brake later, get sideways, and make for better racing action. But talking of action, of course, we just came off the back of the Mexico City race. Over 400,000 rabid fans piled into that stadium over the weekend. I just love it, seeing that almost gladiatorial coliseum towards the end of the lap when the cars go into that stadium. And you could actually hear over the top of the radio every time their home favorite, Sergio Perez, it didn't matter what he did, and he didn't do much, but every time he went in there, the crowd erupted. It must just have been electrifying to be on the ground. It's hot, it's high, it's 2 kilometers above sea level, so maybe some of the on-track action and antics, whether good and bad, might have been caused by a lack of 22%, they say, less oxygen going not just to the engines, but also to the drivers' brains. So maybe that's the excuse that we can come up with some of the shenanigans. It was Ferrari, and I couldn't have been more excited about it. Just watching Carlos Sainz's first pole of the season, you knew he was getting all sporty about it, coming off the back of the last race and, in Austin. And you see his determination, his aggression, his positiveness, and the way he dominated the weekend, dominated the race after getting back past Max after not having exactly as good a start, I thought was exemplary. And there's something about it, going in his second win of the year, and some mental thing that he's got going on, hoping to, leave an indelible mark on Ferrari's racing history as he winds up his own Ferrari Formula One career. Of course, with Sainz, Norris, Leclerc being the way the championship, the points ended up on the podium, there was a 10-point swing in the Drivers' Championship, which is very important. We saw Max finish just down in 5th place. You wonder what's going on in the race as they head towards, wrapping up the season. We've still got another 4 races, so a lot to fight for. The big thing for me, of course, is Ferrari. I don't even know. I was talking about it with Jeremiah, my producer, this morning. I didn't even see Ferrari sneaking up in the Constructors Championship, and here they are. They're in 2nd place right now. So that is remarkable. Who would have thought Ferrari if we go back a year? But then who would have thought McLaren if we go back a year? So very exciting stuff. I think, though, the big story, and it is a sad one, is it was the absence in so many ways of performance for the local hero, Sergio Perez. They did love a Spaniard winning the race. It was very nice that obviously they had a driver that could talk in Spanish to the crowd afterwards, and they really adopted Carlos. I think there's a good reason for that. He's always been popular there, and obviously having a Latino driver win. But you can't help but think the disappointment, even though they're so passionate about Sergio Perez, the disappointment in his performance, but no one must have been more traumatized than him. I said last week, I think going to your home race always gives a driver wings. I mean, that's the Red Bull slogan, right? And I thought if it was ever going to be evident, it would be evident there, as he is, home soil. Lewis won in England. I swear that it gives you that extra little bit of time. I've certainly experienced that, even if it was regionally. I like Laguna Seca. I drove well at Laguna Seca. You tend to raise your game, especially in front of literally an entire nation willing you along. But it was dismal. And I don't think mentally he'll come back from this one. I think this is just one low moment too many. And you've already seen on social media, even Autosport were putting it up this morning, that Christian Horner's saying tough decisions are going to have to be made. And it's no reflection on who he is as a driver or man, but he cannot be enjoying it. It must be absolutely awful. Carlos Sainz, I just had a thought. He's looking at Ferrari getting into this incredible place of performance. He is so technical, such an engineering-based driver. Yes, I think his aggression and his ability to, rather like a Michael Schumacher did, is guide the team towards their ultimate goal and help motivate, galvanize the mechanics, the engineers, the aerodynamicists, everybody. I think he has a big part to play in that. But, of course, how bittersweet it is that he's now watching the baby that he's helped produce go on to potentially championship-winning form, and he won't be there. And he is in for an awfully long year, maybe a couple of years at Williams, just trying to get on pace. And that must be very hard. But in contrast, Lewis Hamilton must be just looking up the pit lane going, this is just glorious. All I wanted, this is it. I mean, I don't even know if I can say this. You might have to cut this from the show. But I thought this morning, it's rather like when a girl that you really like gets a boob job, but you didn't have to pay for it, but you're going to benefit from it when you start to date her. That's my take on it. I'm not sure I can go to the show, but it definitely is. I mean, Lewis is sitting there going, you've written me off. Don't write me off. This is going to be magic when I get in that car. And I think, how crazy would that be? Lewis Hamilton back against Charles Leclerc. I think Lewis is mentally a stronger driver, even at his age. And if he could get that 8th World Championship, it would be one of the fairy tale stories of Formula One, and not just Formula One, motorsport history. So where does this leave McLaren and Lando Norris? It was obviously setting up to be a confrontation right from the start. And they've raced each other throughout their karting career. There's not much they don't know about each other. And I think if you analyze it back, and I can't wait to ask Mika about this, if you analyze it back, every time Lando approached Max, I think he did it in an overtaking way with that little hesitancy, with that little bit of, he's so good. I'm worried he's going to take me out or he's going to defend too hard. And I think that was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because Max is so good. He has such spatial awareness. He places the car perfectly. And I think we've seen it. It's like the parting of the Red Seas when he comes along last year. And I think that mentality, the way he's dominated that, we see it in every form of racing. People know if you go near Max, you're going to be in trouble. It's not going to be easy. But this race, I think they sat down, he and his engineer, and I don't know, whoever's in his inner circle, and they really got a handle on, when you go near Max, don't be surprised he's going to run you off. Don't be surprised. Why don't you turn the tables on him? And I think that's what we saw. We saw Lando understanding how, maybe for the first time this season, you have to race Max. And Max got that, onerous 10-second and then another 10-second penalty. So let's see how that goes as we go into this weekend in Brazil, because don't be surprised when the guy in front is going to play hard. Obviously, it was great points for him. They're closing the gap. But when you look at the Red Bull, let's be honest, it is closer in Mexico City than it has been recently. You could see that the way Max was driving it. But in so many ways, and I don't think the Sergio being so far back is a true delta to look at. But when you look at Max's performance, so much of the time, it is just Max carrying the car. It is Max doing what he does, pushing on that performance envelope right to the edge, which means I don't think he has much threshold of forgiveness. I think that's why we see, him react that way in some ways. But he is definitely pushing himself to the edge, and he has a championship he wants to hold on to. He says it doesn't really it's not what he's thinking about, but that's what he's thinking about. The one thing that we came out with as well was the inconsistency in the regulations and the rules. But there was so much happening. Can you imagine the stewards' room must have been an absolute barnfest with all the appeals and all the radio transmissions. But I think a lot of work will be being done this week as they're trying to sort everything out. And they are obviously making a call to have full-time officials. That would probably be a better thing. Do you know they barely pay them? We found that out from Danny Sullivan. So it's a coveted job, but not a rewarding one, perhaps. We talked about Checo. I think that's that's a rough one, and we'll see what's going to happen towards the end of the next couple of races. Finally, on things that happen, I do want to just bring up, wasn't Kevin Magnussen absolutely spot on, fantastic? He's running out his time here in Formula One, but typical K-Mag style, he does not back off. I love watching the guy race, and gained his 7th place, and he was even one of the fastest car for the last stint of the race. So, I know his future will be bright back in sports cars, where we saw him a couple of years ago. But what a wonderful way and momentum for the end of the year, especially for Haas, looking at what's going to happen next year. But wouldn't it be great? Midfield, 6th point in the Constructors Champion. Well, guys, I can't actually believe it, but it is finally here. The 3rd annual Concours at Wynn Las Vegas will feature special programming beginning this Friday, November 1st, through Sunday, November 3rd. This weekend's festivities will kick off with Sunset GT on Friday night, featuring an assembly of these elusive hypercars and supercars located on the roof of the Wynn parking garage. The event, incredibly, is open to the public, so if you're in Vegas, make your way there. For more information regarding the ticket and room packages, visit lasvegasconcours.com. That's lasvegasconcours.com. Well, now it's time to bring on my very special guest for this week, Mika Häkkinen. We first met each other at the end of the 80s when we were racing in Vauxhall Lotus. He was with Alan McNeish, a Finnish Formula One driver, competed in Formula One from 1991 to 2001. He was nicknamed the Flying Finn for a reason. He won 2 Formula One World Championships after that horrific crash he had in Adelaide, when he really did break his skull open and he had an emergency tracheotomy. It was touch and go for a while, but then he recovered, came back and won 2 World Championships and 20 Grand Prix across the 11 seasons. And he was always one of those very enjoyable characters in the pit lane. His on-track driving was not mirrored by his off-track antics, because he's a real joker. Yet when you get him on the track, it's all flat out. So Mika, finally we get you on the show. Welcome to Drive to Win, mate.
It's been a long time indeed. I tell you, it's good to be in your program indeed. And it's difficult to get me because I'm so fast.
You're so fast. You're the Flying Finn for a reason. No, I thought you'd slow down when you got older. You're everywhere.
Yeah, I want to slow down, I tell you what. But it's impossible. Once you have a passion for motor racing, I think you carry that the rest of your life. And of course, having five children, it doesn't help you to slow down. You have to be active and go on. But yes, it's true. I tell you, I do slow down a bit. I tell you, if I jump in a car, particularly in a racing car, I'm not going to go flat out, only 99%.
Only 99.9, you lying sod. I know you. I was just thinking, all sorts of jokes came up. You made 5 kids, hopefully not as quickly as you drove. But my God, that's crazy, buddy. I can't believe it. So you're talking to me from Czechoslovakia, because that's where your wife's from, and your kids are seeing their grandparents. But every time we've tried to book you, you're somewhere else in the world. I mean, I know you do TV. I know you do marketing stuff. What is the main thing you're doing these days?
Well, this is it. I'm very proudly be brand ambassador for McLaren team, of course, and of course our history together with McLaren, little bit automatically bringing me position to be a brand ambassador for McLaren. And also working very closely with the prospect partners of McLaren, and same thing what I do with Formula One. So I spending time with their partners. These days, Formula One has about 10 major partners, and I'm very privileged to spend time with these let's call it sponsors or partners. having dinners, having lunches, talk about the history of Formula One, the past of the time when I was racing there, and of course the current situation. So it's a very exciting time. Uh, uh, yeah, that takes a little part of my life, and of course 2 of my children then also doing a motor racing. The 10-year-old son is doing a motor racing. My 13-year-old daughter is doing motor racing. So that keeps me busy also. So out of the Formula One paddock.
Wow. So you are actually doing it. You're one of the crazy dads that stops racing and then funds their child. Man, my kid, I was like, do anything else other than being a racing driver. I'm proud of you. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I tell you, I tried everything with my kids. You know, I bought my son a Speedos. That way he starts swimming, you know, but no, everything goes to direction of motor racing. And my daughter was doing long time for synchronized swimming. I said to her, stay in the pool and do that. Don't come up. But you know, she wants to motor racing, and that's where it goes. And I tried every sport with my kids. That way they will get excited. Again, nothing against the motor racing, but I know motor racing, it is a really, really tough, like you Justin know, it is a super tough journey in terms of time what it requires from the parents, financial sacrifice what you have to do with doing that sport, because it's a super expensive.
Yeah.
And wow, that's where it goes. But what can I do? You know, if they love it, they love it.
Well, I tell you what, it was probably the sight of you in Speedos that made your son wanted to race cars. That's what I'm...
I tell you what.
That's enough. I'd be like, Dad, I inherited everything from you. I'm not man enough for Speedos. Okay. Well, listen, let's talk about Formula One. Mexico, there was so much to talk about. I mean, it's the fans and the atmosphere. First up, did you used to love racing in Mexico? Because it seems like everyone enjoyed it.
I have a good and bad experiences of Mexico. First of all, when I went there first time, it was the year 91, and I was very... What I did actually, I went to visit the pyramids. I looked at the history a little bit, amazed about the whole Mexico City, of course, and then going on a paddock and with the Team Lotus racing car, which was actually 50 kilos overweight, and experiencing the racing in a location which is such a high altitude. When what it means that way, of course, you lose a lot of engine horsepower, you lose a lot of aerodynamic downforce from the car because the air is much thinner, and physically, of course, it's becoming more challenging. So I have a lot of great memories from them. Did I like it? I liked the track, but it was so tough. It was super tough. It's a bit different design these days. Like coming to main straight, they used to be a massive, very fast right-hander, nearly flat out. And it was just incredible. Bad memories because in second year Lotus, when I was racing in Mexico, I never forget that, because I think it was in a free practice, and the Team Lotus didn't have a very high budget. You know, we didn't have a lot of money, and I was coming out of that last corner absolutely flat out, you know, and just coming out of the corner and shifting a higher gear. Well, I think it went this way actually. Shifted a higher gear, and it didn't go. It didn't go to sixth. It went to third gear, and what that means, the engine just, you know, it went to rev limit, not even rev limiter. It just over limit the speed, and I damaged the engine. And every time when we were using a Ford Cosworth engine, they have to take the engine out, rebuild the engine, and put the new engine in, and it's so expensive to do that. So it was quite a painful experience what happened to the team. But anyway, I liked the place. Everybody was warning me about the danger of the Mexico City. I think that time, year 91, was still okay, but I think these days you have to be a bit you have to be a bit careful when you go there, where you go.
Yeah. But it created an interesting race. And that's really what I want, one of the things to kick off with is it seems that certain drivers, when you're in a low grip track, when the car is moving around a lot, are better than others. We know that. We see it, especially in that first practice. But it also allowed, with Ferrari, you saw a bit of a difference between their two drivers. Carlos seemed to grasp being, he really grasped. He owned the weekend. Charles doesn't like the car moving around so much. But let's talk about Ferrari. The speed of Ferrari, a 1-2 for them. I mean, what a 1-3? What did you think about Ferrari's performance? And they didn't even come with upgrades again. So 2 weekends in a row. Give me your recap on Ferrari's performance.
Well, first of all, I have seen all the development of the McLaren over the years, and we know where situation McLaren has been very start of this year. Talking about last year, so they have done incredible changes inside in the team to able to match, able to do performance what they do these days. I see in Ferrari there has been a lot of weird mistakes. They've been going up and down. I think the performance of the car a little bit has been there all the time, but if it not has been a tactics or the driver error or the team mistake, it hasn't bring the full potential of the car, and now seems like they getting act together. The team is functioning good. The drivers are doing good job, and I feel also same time that with the Carlos Sainz example, he wants to show everybody and said he wants to show the Ferrari and everybody, you guys made a mistake. You made a mistake to that way. I'm not racing with you guys next year. And he wants to go flat out and the Leclerc automatically he wants to show, of course, maximum performance, which brings the overall performance for the team better. So I think there is no magic secret out there. They just found the consistency, and that's, I think that's one of the main issues there.
Yeah. As a driver style, do you relate more to a Sainz or a Leclerc, or a Lando or an Oscar? I know what your driving style is, but what do you feel when you look at them?
The Sainz, when I'm looking at his driving style, he is very aggressive, and it's, every racing car and every different tire compounds, different tire construction requires a different kind of attack from the driver, and I see the Carlos's driving style, which means quite aggressive, a very brave approach, seems to fit the car balance very well, and seems to fit the Ferrari, and the same thing is talking about McLaren. Lando has much more aggressive driving style compared to Piastri, and it seems to work. Are they just more talented? Are they better drivers? I don't really want to say that. It's just a style what they are able to adapt for the conditions. So it's not straightforward. I think, Justin, if I would jump in a latest Formula One car now, I don't think I could actually say more than what I'm saying at the moment, because I would be so slow. But it would probably give me indication that wow, if you have to, with these current cars, you have to really break. Unnaturally late to able to create a certain temperature in a whole system. It's and there can be such many reasons. The Formula One is a very, very complicated machine, and the driving style what driver has, you have so many different options what you can do to help you to drive better. You can adjust so many little details, And this driver who was able to communicate with the data engineers, the race engineer, and finding the best solutions of the front end of the car going in the corner, in the mid corner exit, that driver will go in the right direction. And at the moment, the Carlos looks like he's been able, especially in Mexico, he did found the best solutions for that.
Yeah, it's good to hear you say that the cars are so difficult to drive, because I mean, you were at the tail end of, or the beginning of that. I mean, there's a lot of technology in your Formula One cars, but when you look back on what you had to deal with, you look back on your steering wheel, it was barely much more than the Vauxhall Lotus we drove, right? I mean, yes, there was a lot more, but compared to now, is that why the cars are on such a knife edge? Why 1 minute Oscar could be right there in the top 4, and the next minute you can be running in 15th? It seems that the knife edge drop off, but even between teammates, it looks like a lot when we look on the timesheet, but in reality, it's almost nothing.
Justin, you're right. We had much less controls on the steering. I think because we used to be better drivers that time. We used to be more talented.
Yeah, I agree. No, also our brains were smaller, so all they could give us was
that's for sure.
was a steering wheel and a gear stick. But yeah, I
for sure. But Justin, I agree with you. The cars are more knife edge, and in my time, again, when I was racing, so I stopped 2001 Formula One, and we were working very closely with Bridgestone, and because there was no test limitations, we had huge a number of tire compounds, constructions, what we were testing consistently, try to improve the balance of the car. So when we weren't able to find the balance, solving the balance problems with the technical side of the car, is it aerodynamic, is it mechanical, is it electronic adjustments, what the car does in a corner, we were able to modify the tires, the constructions, the compounds. So that was our help that time. Now when the tires are fixed with every driver, the tire pressures are more or less fixed with the regulations. They are quite a low profile also. That makes the cars, I'm sure they make the car very difficult to drive. It's just on a knife edge. So if you get all the temperatures on the tires and the wear of the tire in a correct way, you are able to make really good lap times. But if you are not in that window, you are slow, and that's it.
Yeah, very, very demanding. And you can see the way they manage it, and then the energy regeneration, like Max shouting on his radio, right? Why do I have no battery? I mean, he didn't they didn't give him a mode where he could recharge his battery enough. And when Lando went by, it frustrated him. These are things we never had to think about. So let's talk about it. Lando and Max, the psychology of it, and what happened, this weekend, following up from the weekend before. Obviously, Austin was one situation where the stewards went one way. Then we go to Mexico City, and you had a similar situation, and then you had a blatant pushing off the track. What's your analysis of what happened, and where is Max's head in all this?
Okay, I have so much experience of racing against different drivers, of course, and different character people, different character drivers, so what I did in the past in my career when I was in Formula One, I learned to understand what are the behavior of the drivers outside of the race car and also in a race car. And that gave me the judgment that way, how I gonna race them at the track, how far I can push them in a corner, that way they don't do anything crazy. And you can see the personalities of outside of the car and how it relates, how they drive a car on the track. So when I had a driver who I was racing against, who were quite aggressive, I was I understood very much also their personality. So I prepared my overtaking maneuvers differently. The risks what I was taking driving against these drivers were different, who were a little bit hot-headed, example. And I like racing against the Michael Schumacher. I knew that way, if I try to overtake him, he's not gonna give up. I mean, we're going to touch. If I'm gonna overtake him, we're going to touch, and that was his way of racing. He didn't want to open a door, and nobody don't want to open a door for you when you are racing. But you can go wheel to wheel, very close racing. But Michael was always in a way that, if you overtake me, I don't let you overtake. We're gonna touch, and he was in that attitude, and it created always a massive risk. So what it means that with my overtaking maneuver, I always prepare it that way. It's gonna be flat out. That way, I'm gonna be so clear with overtaking. That way, he don't have even chance to close the door or the defend his position. So when we go now to last race example, what happened with Max and Norris, Lando obviously knows behavior of Max, how he raced, how he does it, and so when you do overtake against him, that the wheel's gonna touch. So that's why you're overtaking against the Max. Always is better to do it in a right way. That way you are making sure your car is in front of him. Make sure that way you are more or less inside of when you're going in the corner, not outside, inside. That way the Max don't have a chance. So that's how do I see the situation. Is Max doing a little bit too much? It is his style, and is it wrong? Is it right? It is FIA Formula One to decide, and the referees to decide, is it right or wrong? Is it are these movements what he does on the track, are they correct in a rule book? Emotionally, we can scream and say who is wrong or right, but we are not able to, end of the day, give them maybe the right judgment, because there is rules and rule book which is making a judgment for who is doing the right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but I do think the stewards need to be consistent, right? They are, but they're also being challenged by Max, right? He has this incredible spatial awareness. He knows exactly what to do, and as I think I heard Lando say in an interview last week, Max has always raced like that, to the edge of the rules, right? He'll push it, even in karting, to the absolute edge. But as you say, that is Max. So he went over the line last weekend, but the rules have to be consistent.
You're right. The rules has to be consistent. But same time, if you look any sport in the world, is it basketball, baseball, there is always a situation where the rules, you have to maybe add more different rules, modify the rules. They are always moving, and you cannot give the rule book which is 100 years old. You need to constantly modify it for the situations and conditions. The tracks are changing, a lot of areas are changing, the cars are changing. So you need to modify the rule book accordingly of these changes. I think that's natural.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just go back to the overtaking. That's one of the things that's most impressive about Oscar Piastri. When he, a few races ago, when he makes an overtake, there's absolutely no messing around, right? He comes up and bang, he executes it before Max or anyone else has a chance. Is that what you're talking about? Because I think Lando sometimes shows his game a little too much to Max. And you know that, Mika, once you show the guy in front, you catch him all those seconds, and then you show him what you're going to do and you don't do it, he kind of wins that battle at that point.
You're right. You're right. It's very difficult indeed. I when I was overtaking, like I was never a fantastic driver to overtake. I think I was okay, but I felt like I was not fantastic. And why is that? Because I thought, you know, this race is about 1.5, 2 hours long. Now in a lap number 10, still 1 hour and 20 minutes to go in this race. Is it worth it now to make the huge risk that way? I will damage the front wing or something in the car and the game is over. So I was always looking for long term, what's going to happen. And I think that's the way of doing it. Piastri's maneuvers are clean. I think he's preparing them very well. He's a confident when he's going to do the maneuver. Lando to attack immediately, and he has a reason for that also, simply because if you do follow other car for many laps, you overheat the engine, you overheat the brakes, you overheat the tires. So what's happening that way? You automatically, your car is slowing down a little bit. That way, your whole becomes very complicated. So there's a two side of the coin. It's not always so straightforward, and that's what I think, But what Max Lando is doing with this racing at the moment is definitely spectacular. It looks very exciting for fans, and it's good for Formula One, in my opinion, that there's a racing like that. If everybody drives too carefully, I don't think it would be very spectacular. So you have to attack, flat out.
So, Mika, I mean, I get that. I think you're so right. The way everyone's driving, the way the cars are, there's so many differences. But these are, for the main part, young drivers really having been brought up in a totally different world to the way we did. But there's still a few older guys in there who are showing their stuff. Obviously, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton. But then we have Sergio Perez, and I have to bring it up. And I think he's a wonderful man, a successful driver. But how bad for his mental state was last weekend in Mexico?
Yeah, it was really tough to in the situation. I don't want any driver to be in a position where he's like everybody criticizing him for long period of time now already. He's against the best driver out there. He's against Max, which is great champion. So to everybody comparing, not anymore. They don't actually even compare to Max anymore. They just gave up. I think they all understood that way. He has no chance to come to same level with Max. And I don't really, when I'm looking Sergio, if he cannot match the same lap time, then Sergio cannot match the same lap time than Max. I would say that's even okay. I mean, if he's 2-3 tenths behind the Max, I think that would be fine, because that kind of speed and that kind of information, what they can collect from the data will move the overall team in the development of the car. But he's like 8 tenths, he's 1 second behind, which means the data what they are from the car is no way. The loads on suspension, under braking, acceleration, in a cornering, you cannot compare to Max, and that's terrible. Even he's a nice guy, but that it's sad to see that, and I think this has been dragging a really long time. Listening to comments of Church here that way, yes, I'm gonna be there. Yes, I'm gonna do it. This could be my week. The problem is much more than that. If you don't do radical changes in your way of working, and because the life is not for racing driver, is not just to go home and then from home to racetrack and drive a racing car. It's not that simple. Or go jogging sometimes to stay fit. It's much more complicated than, the Formula One racing and motor racing psychologically is so demanding that you can build your mind well, but this what's happening here in your head. It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work to able pressure. And what is the more important, in my opinion, you have to develop. You have to be. You have to listen to people's criticism. It's absolutely that kind of action, and you have to put everybody from your personal team to sit down and say, and ask the question, what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with you, and look at the mirror and ask what's wrong with me, and why I'm saying all these. Why do I say all these words? Because I have experience. I was in Formula One when I didn't win any Grand Prix in 7 years. So automatically in 7 years, you are you're waking up every morning, you go in the bathroom, you look in the mirror and say, Mika, you are fantastic racing driver. And then, after 6 years, you go front of the mirror and you are not anymore so confident. You are not saying any more those words, and you're asking questions. What's going on here? So you need to ask help. You have to learn to improve yourself, to develop yourself. It's human. It's great if you have a talent inside of driving, but that's a very little part of the becoming a race winner, becoming a world champion. That is a very little part. All the rest, what is around, requires a lot of study and the work to be able to reach that point where you can compete from the world championship.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I remember when you were in that dry spell, people would say to me, I'd be a bit defensive of you. They'd be like, Mika, he should go back to snowmobiles and, build some ice igloos. Yeah. And I'm like, the guy hasn't forgotten how to freaking drive. You get him in the right situation, he'll be a world champion again. And you were. But what was the best advice someone gave you at that point? Do you remember?
There was a lot of advices, of course, but I like me, Justin. I'm not very. I keep all the time very small group of people who are hanging around. Mm-hmm. So I don't listen to too much people from outside. What is important is the advice. The fact is that when you are a racing driver, you need to focus keeping your foot down. I mean, that's it. One of the best advice is just keep your foot down. I mean, brake later than others. Keep your teammate behind. God damn it. And you have to maximize it. And every day you just have to go flat out. That is the best thing what you can do. But of course, when you start going in details, then the data become a very important factor, because there is many other drivers to take your place. There is a lot of partners, sponsors in the team who are putting a lot of money in the team, asking why you keep this young Finnish driver there. He's not winning. He's not good enough. He's not winning races. So these kind of analyses about yourself, where you are in your fitness, in your ability to understanding data, communication skills with the team, languages. And to analyzing the team, to making sure that way you are very straight analysis about the team, what mistakes they do. Is it aerodynamics? Is it mechanical? Is it horsepower? Is it the data points? How much they can measure data, and people who can understand the data. So you constantly analyze and to inform the team, that way the team managers, team bosses, they know what's going on. So they get confidence also from the driver, that way the driver knows what he's talking, not just sitting in a car and driving a car, So it's a lot of communication things, and because it's no point to start, and it's not excuses or nothing like that. Because today and even my time, we had a data, we can get everything by fact. It was not just talking, So we can prove this, and this. What we can prove to the team helps your position in the future.
Yeah.
Again, the final stories. Keep your foot down, flat out, man. That's the only way to doing it.
I love that. So it was crazy when I was just checking out your Wikipedia yesterday, right? And I was like, it was. I mean, I know you raced with the greats. Obviously Michael being one of them, and you raced against everyone, all the people that we know and respect. But then I looked at Fernando Alonso. Does it blow your mind when, I know you like a little drink. Now you can have a drink on a Grand Prix on a Saturday night. You can have a nice dinner. But Fernando, who you used to race against, is still out there doing it. Does that just... What do you think about it? You are one crazy old dude. I mean, it's amazing that he has the mental capacity and the fortitude to continue to want to do Formula One, isn't it?
It is amazing. It's no question about it. I mean, I started 91 Formula One. I retired 2001. The reason why I retired, example, because halfway through my career, I had a really bad accident. I cracked my skull. So learning that, how painful it is, and able after that to winning a world championship 2 times, I thought this is enough. I cannot continue anymore long, risking my life, because that time also safety wasn't so high level what it is today. Well, Alonso joined the Formula One, if I remember, 2001. That was his first year. That was the year when I retired. And he's racing there today. Okay, he had a little break one point, but not from the race. Formula One. Has Formula One changed over the years? Does it make drivers able to stay there longer? For sure, one element has changed a lot, that there's no any more testing, and this tends to be really tiring. It was just incredible, 5 days on row testing somewhere in Portugal, in Estoril, from morning to evening, physically, logically, going all the time flat out. And I was telling them halfway through my career for McLaren team, I said, guys, we need a test driver. We cannot do this kind of running. We are knackered. We are finito. We have to do promotions. We have to do race weekends. We have to do testing. And I'll give you one more example, that when we used to do testing before the season started, the number of kilometers we did testing is more. Before the season started, we did more kilometers in the testing than the currently racing drivers do in a whole year. So it is a massive amount of driving. So coming back to Alonso, he's a mega talent driver, of course, talented drivers. People love him. And how in earth he's able to take that pressure from the team, from the teammate, from the fans, from the media, being criticized, seeing his competitors winning, who he knows that way, the same performance, then the winner of the Grand Prix, I finished maybe position P10. And I know I can beat that guy. How he can live with this motion, I have no clue. So he's incredible. Well, I respect him in that way. He found all the, not only physical energy, but also the mental energy, how he finds that. So well done. He's a mega. I don't know how to find the better words for that. He's a really cool.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly go back to McLaren. You obviously have been so involved. Their development. They're taking it race by race, and we have this run to the Drivers' Championship, and of course, Lando picked up some valuable points this weekend. Theoretically, it is possible. What's the attitude like within the whole team? Are they like you say, flat out? Do they approach the weekend like this is it? No holds barred. We got to win. We got to beat Max. Is every member of the team, as far as you can see, on the, with that sole mission to try and, for the first time in years, try and win the championship?
Yeah, definitely. The atmosphere team is absolutely positive. They are coming to Grand Prix weekend knowing that way they can win. They are not coming to Grand Prix weekend that way only. I think we're going to be 1 second off the pace. So no, they know that way they can win. So everybody's motive is in the highest possible level. And that little percentage, what every member of the McLaren team has improved in their positiveness in their mind will bring in incredible power for the team. And this is a great feeling. I have experienced the same feeling with the McLaren team in my time when we were losing. We started to be in a point that where we can start winning Grand Prix. You can see everybody smile. You can see everybody's body language. You can see his energy. That way. Yes, we can do it. Everybody's more control what they're doing, the energy goes very high, and everybody's supporting each other much more in those days. And team McLaren at the moment, which will, and now we see what's going to happen. They still races to go. Anything can happen. Lando just has to do what he at the moment, and improving. I'm sure every lap what he does, his mind is developing. He wants to be better. He wants to be world champion. So everything is right direction. When you are doing this process, of course, developing, winning races, the risk of mistakes increases, of course. But that's part of the learning, part of the but he's doing the right stuff at the moment, and the whole team. Thanks for Andrea Stella. Thanks for, of course, Zach Brown. What he over the years building this incredible atmosphere for the team. And making these mega correct investments, finding right tools to make this great racing car, and finding the right people in the right position.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that insight. Well, the next segment, kind of short answers from you, but this is the Mobil1 Pit Stop for the love of driving. My first question to you, Mika, is: are you still riding that silly little unicycle?
Yes, I do have it. I used to go in a paddock with that. I used to go to, when I was a kid, I used to go to school, and why actually I learned to do that, because I was a very good boy, because my father said to me when I was a young kid, I had a brand new bicycle. I said, when you go to school and you park it there, Mika, there's 100, so make sure you lock it. And of course I didn't lock it, so it got stolen. So of course I was without the bicycle. So what happens was my father said, you see what happens when you don't lock it? I said, but I don't have a bicycle. They make me a unicycle, one-wheeler. And of course, that way you're going to have to never lock it. Nobody don't steal it, because nobody going to ride it.
That's brilliant. Okay. I just remember you riding around the paddock. Along he came riding through the paddock in Vauxhall Lotus, and we're like, that guy is so mad. That's the first time I realized that Finnish people were mad. Here's a question. To be one of the racing greats, do you have to have that sort of little asshole quality? I mean, just look at it. Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, they were capable in the heat of the moment of doing crazy things to ensure a victory. Do you think that is a ruthless quality you have to have?
One thing which is very important is sense of humor, first of all. That's one of the key elements what you need, because we're racing in motor racing and many other sports also. The losing is huge. You lose so much. It's so tough. So you need to have a great sense of humor. And the driving is also the same thing. You need to learn a lot because you're making mistakes. You cannot be angry for yourself constantly all the time. Otherwise, you continue making mistakes. You have to laugh about those things. But yes, if you want to be, you want to be a world champion. You don't have to be crazy. You don't have to make a crazy overtakes. You don't have to hurt anybody. You need to have incredibly a lot of patience and keep your foot down.
Keep your foot down. Perfect. We were all great friends. Your era with some great rivalries and great friendships. Do you think the drivers now, we see it on social media, are maybe too good friends?
Yeah, I don't think when you're about to 200 miles per hour out there and you're wheel to wheel, it's impossible to be a friend with somebody. The danger is so huge, and it's no way you can be a friend. If they are hanging around some events together, it doesn't mean they are the best friends together. It's impossible. It is. I think it's just today's world that it's polite to do that, but the real friend, no go. I don't think so.
Okay, interesting. What was the most meaningful checkered flag of your 20 Grand Prix wins? Do you remember it? Was it the last one? Was it the first one?
It definitely has to be the time when I, both my world championships were decided in the last Grand Prix, and when I very first time in Japan in Suzuka when I become a world champion, that was the most memorable victory and the time when I was allowed basically to I let myself to be emotional. That's it. I don't have to hold the steering. I had my goal. So that was my best moment of my life and the best moment of my victories. And starting when you are 6 years old, and then finally achieving that goal when you're roughly about 33 years old. So it took a long time. So that was the time. That was in 98 in Suzuka.
Yeah. You obviously drove with a lot of great guys. You hang out with a lot of drivers now. You know them. But who was the most fun, other than me, to go and have a good night out after a race? Who was your wingman?
Well, there was. I went out with quite a few crazy drivers, to be honest, and we had a great time. And different nationalities, they party differently. They have different way of party. And the Michael Schumacher was quite crazy. I mean, he was quite. I think the Finns are also a little bit, but we laugh. We sit down, we laugh all the time, and we try to find the microphone to sing a karaoke. It's gonna sound awful when they do that, but anyway, that's a different story. But I have the fun guy definitely is a David Coulthard, from Scotland, who was my teammate for many years. He's super fun. So, but yeah, I mean, the driver, there's many drivers who are a lot of fun. They can chill out.
Yeah, they really can. And finally, when you watch the season and you watch all the tracks, I know it's physically tough now, but if you got the chance to drive one more track one time, which track would that be on the Formula One calendar?
If I would have a winning car, I would probably choose the Monaco.
Oh, That's a good idea. No one can go by you either, right? At the front, foot flat down. Well, thank you, Mika, for the Mobil1 Pit Stop for the love of driving. But now we're looking into Brazil coming up this weekend. Obviously, the fans are going to be crazy. What is your prediction? Is there any way to predict the top three? What is your prediction? I'm in Vegas. I need to know. What's your bet?
First of all, Brazil is an absolutely fantastic place, and the track is incredible. It is anti-clockwise track, so it's physically quite demanding for your neck because most of the track is the clockwise. So always it's been very difficult to manage physically. The conditions also can be very tricky there because if it rains, it really rains. Definitely, it rains more than in England, but talking about who's going to be there in a performance-wise, I see the McLaren is absolutely, they are good at the moment, and I believe now Piastri will get his act together. He's been having a couple of mistakes happening, so now he's coming to that Grand Prix that way. Okay, come on, now I'm gonna get it right. So I feel the McLaren gonna be strong. All depends also about the tires, what they're gonna choose, how the tires gonna work. Ferrari gonna continue being strong, no question about it. And I think we talk about Mercedes, Ferrari, and then Red Bull. That order we're gonna go.
Wow, interesting. Well, listen, are you gonna come to Las Vegas?
Absolutely, definitely.
Well, I saw you at breakfast last time.
Nobody want to miss the Las Vegas. It is absolutely, I gotta tell you. I think it's amazing. I think, and Americans, they can make they learn all the time. When they have a show going on, they want to make it better next year. And the American fans are so happy and crazy about the Formula One. So Vegas is going to be great. I'm really looking forward. I tell you, it's going to be amazing.
Fantastic. Well, let's have breakfast when you're here. You're at the Wynn. You're probably staying here again. So I look forward to it. My friend, that was so good. Thank you. I had a good time.
Nice to talk to you, Justin.
Just no more babies. No more baby making. You can't do it, man. You'll work till you're 100.
I don't promise it. I don't promise anything, man.
No, I know that. All right, man. Take care. We'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you. So you don't need to go 200 miles an hour to outrun your inbox or pull multiple Gs around corners just to decline that phone call. You don't even have to have someone waving a yellow flag to tell you to slow down and look around. Basically, you don't need to be a professional driver to disconnect and break free. All you guys have to do is get out there and drive. Mobil1 for the love of driving. Visit loveofdriving.us/drive to win to learn more. Well, I hope you lot enjoyed that as much as I did just listening to Mika. It's funny how we mellow with age. And one of the biggest takeaways for me from that was how he said important it was to have a sense of humor when you are at the top of any sport. And it really is that key. I guess, as he said, you lose more than you win. So I really enjoyed it. And thank you, Mika, for taking the time. Well, Brazil's coming up, the final part of this triple header that we've been enjoying. Can Ferrari make it 3 from 3? It's a sprint race too, so it's a double chance to score some big points down in Sao Paulo. It is a remarkable racetrack. You just heard Mika say it. You run anti-clockwise. That does put a lot of different demands through the driver and even the pit crew. Think about it. They spend so much with the car coming in from the left, heading clockwise. Everybody has to reverse around, right? Going the other way. I hadn't really thought about that. It must even something as subtle as that. The nuance means I'm sure they've been practicing that when they get to this race weekend. It is a race that McLaren really can't lose if they want to keep this Drivers' Championship alive for Lando. But it's also one with Ferrari having snuck into second place in the Constructors' Championship. That is something that they do not need to let anyone else in on the action. And with Ferrari having won 2 in a row, will they make it 3 in a row? Something tells me that momentum could be carrying on. But McLaren, as Mika said, they're really going to come on song. Everybody's going to get their final acts together heading into this weekend. It is one of my favorite tracks to enjoy. Very sadly, my old mate Gilles de Ferran always invited me every year to go to the Brazilian Grand Prix, and I was like, one day. And of course, when he passed, that opportunity went. But in his memory, I'll go one day. But it does make you think, if you get the chance to go anywhere you've really wanted to, any Grand Prix on your calendar, don't hold back, especially when someone like that invites you. Lando does need another win. Max needs another poor points haul, but those number of races are counting down. But I'd rather be in any of those drivers' shoes than in Sergio Perez's seat, as last weekend that must have just absolutely crashed his confidence and ego. So I'm really thinking that he needs to pick himself up. But if he couldn't pick himself up last weekend, I don't know what. But mark my words, there'll be some very important news, perhaps, on driver replacements coming up anytime soon. For one thing, the Brazilian crowd will go absolutely mad, and it will be carnival the whole way through this week. So I can't wait to see it on social media. Talking about which, stay in touch with us at Drive to Win across Instagram, and let us know if, how we think, how we're doing, and what kind of guests you'd like us to have on. But as I said, this place is getting racy. It's about to ramp up to Ultimate Race Week here in Las Vegas. Thank you very much to the Wynn Las Vegas for having us in their beautiful casino. As always, thank you to Mobil1 for the love of driving, for their support, and to Mika Häkkinen for taking the time to join us. I'll see you next week.